I hope you know how to drive better than I do because I played 30 days of Outbound, and one thing I learned across the way is that I'm an even worse driver in video games than I am in real life. Did that stop me enjoying the slow-paced road trip of a lifetime through the mountains? Absolutely not, and I'm going to show you what I got up to today. Thanks to Silver Lining Interactive and Square Glade Games for sponsoring this video. I love playing Outbound, and if you want to try it too, it's launching on May 11th on PC and Xbox, and May 14th for Switch 1 and 2 and PlayStation 5. But without further ado, let's get into it, and you can see everything this game has to offer and judge my driving for yourself. So the game starts with a little bit of customization, and you get to pick what style of camper van you want. You get to pick your own personalized number plate, which was easy, of course, and the van had to be green. You can pick from an array of colors, but green is just very on brand for me. The character customization wasn't anything too detailed, but since it's first person, I guess this doesn't matter too much anyway. With everything ready, it was time to set off on the road for the very first time. The drive to the first stop was kind of slow and peaceful until I reached the car park, and somehow I struggled to park. I did warn you about my driving. Eventually, I switched off the engine, stepped out, and found my first campfire. I gathered up some wood nearby and was able to light my very first one. It looks like we have a lot to find on the map. There was a little balcony overlooking the view, so I paused there for a second just to admire the area that I'm going to be exploring very shortly. But I did have a job to do, and that was to open this barrier, but to do that I needed a wrench. I found a radio terminal and unlocked the recipe and went ahead looking for some scrap metal. The crafting minigame was pretty straightforward and not too fast. With the wrench made and the path open, I headed back to the van. After briefly getting into the wrong side of the van, I guess being British really caught up with me there, I was able to set off to find more campfires, and not long after I came across another one. There was a little bit of litter scattered around, and we can't be having that. Next, I needed to make a hammer, so this was really easy. All I had to do was gather up some wood, and with that done, I packed everything up in my van and continued heading towards the next landmark. I tried to do a little off-roading along the way. I do not recommend this. Eventually, I reached another campsite. There was a broken bridge nearby, which I kind of ignored for now. That can be a problem for another day. I did, however, light my third campfire, and I found some road berries, which looked suspiciously like blueberries if you ask me. By now, my backpack was getting pretty heavy, and numpty me hadn't thought to head back to the van to drop things off, so I carried on up the hill and found the terminal waiting for me. The only problem was I needed a download voucher. So I got back to my van and had a look through the build mode, and here I found the recycler. I placed it down and fed in all the litter I'd collected and decided this was a good place to end our first day. The next morning, I awoke and the voucher was ready, so with a fresh start and an empty inventory, I made my way back up the hill towards the tower. I had a feeling wood was going to be important, so I unlocked the axe. I spent some time wandering around the top of the hill, and that's when I found my first gnome. Everyone meet little ash things. Feeling very happy with my progress so far, I decided to move on, and after a quick stop gathering some more wood, I realized I had just enough to craft the axe. Naturally, in my excitement, I immediately drove into a group of trees, so yes, driving is still not my strong suit. Not long after, I came across another radio tower. This time I chose to unlock gardening, which feels kind of a nice addition to the game. I spent a little bit more time exploring until I realized I'd completely forgotten to charge the van. With the night slowly setting in, I stopped, added some wood to get it charging, and then I realized I'm gonna need a lot of wood in this game, as it doesn't last very long at all. Day 3 arrived with rain softly falling. I decided to be organized for once and planned out my route on the map before setting off. Along the way, I spotted my first bunnies quietly hopping around. I slowed right down, doing my best not to turn this day into something much less cozy. I do not need any roadkill. I stopped off briefly and picked up a banana peel, doing my good deed for the day, but my main goal was all about the radio tower nearby. At the tower, I unlocked a sawmill crafting recipe, which felt like a pretty big step forward. I placed it down straight away, but of course I was missing the one thing I needed most: wood. So I wandered around gathering what I could, some wood and of course a few berries, as I was starting to get a bit hungry. Eventually I had enough to build the machine, but not quite enough to actually make any planks. So back to the van I went, setting off to find yet more wood. Not long after, I stumbled across something new, a drawbridge. It looked promising, but no luck. There was no way for me to lower it from this side. With the path blocked, I made my way back to the broken bridge instead. It needs 10 planks to repair, so at least now I know what I'm working towards. I decided to head out on foot to gather more wood, which in hindsight wasn't a very good idea. My backpack filled up pretty quickly and suddenly the van felt much further away than I remembered. In case you're worried, I did make it back to bed even with my overfilled backpack, and honestly it was worth it because the next morning I finally had enough planks. On the other side of the bridge I found something a little bit unexpected, a cap and spin. I didn't question it and just quietly deposited my caps and waited to see what would happen. And out came a blueprint for my very own propeller bobblehead. This one looks like an adorable little companion for my van, which is a nice addition. Further along I spotted some birds, perhaps they were storks, I am no expert, but they didn't seem to be too keen on me. After all the excitement of rebuilding the bridge, I picked up a signal from a radio tower, but decided to ignore it for now. Instead, I decided to follow the road towards the next landmark. Not before long, I found my fourth campsite and stopped for a moment. As golden hour settled in, I left the van where it was and wandered up to a cluster of rocks nearby. Up there, I built my second little rock tower. These are really cute. And then I promptly fell off the rocks, completely by accident, of course, or maybe not. Did I just want a quicker way back down? Yes, but it was worth the little bit of damage I took. Day 5 started with a long drive until I hit a campsite, which was also a dead end for the camper van. Time to do some exploration on foot. After a little hike up the mountain, I found the landmark, and it was a giant treehouse, which is pretty impressive. I explored the treehouse thoroughly, coming across a number of discarded letters and some pretty flowers, but the real reason I was here was for the terminal. Whilst hunting for the pieces to fix a signal, I also came across a very green gnome. Finally, I had all the pieces I needed and I unlocked the terminal. This time I went for the pickaxe. With that completed, I headed back to try and find my van, picking up a mushroom or two as I went, maybe one too many mushrooms. I wasted no time in crafting my new pickaxe and the homing boot. These will definitely come in handy when it's getting dark. After all that, the night was officially complete, so I put the van and myself to bed. The next day, I decided it was time to visit the radio signal and pick up some new recipes, so off I set, but apparently I hadn't had enough coffee as I got myself stuck in the ditch for a moment. That unstuck button is going to be working overtime with me behind the wheel. Despite my driving faux pas, I made it to the radio signal. I went for the coziest array of recipes, which included shelves and candles. Nearby the tower was so much wood, I would have been silly not to collect this. Whilst the van recharged, I did a spot of redecorating with my brand new recipes, and then it was time to get back on the road. And this time I was aiming to get to the bridge again. However, I made a quick pit stop as these bottle caps were burning a hole in my inventory. I hit the jackpot and secured the cat bobblehead. I didn't quite make it to the drawbridge before nightfall, so I set up camp in a new area, picking up yet more bananas. On day 7, it was a lucky day, which is ironic given the number, and I found a tower signal early on. This was exciting as it was a blueprint to add a deck to the vehicle. I got straight to it and crafted the deck area as it allowed me to add the crop plots. It's looking pretty good. Whilst continuing on the path to the drawbridge, I also found a painting station, so if you want to change your vehicle colour, you absolutely can. Finally, I made it to the drawbridge and I found the lever. I also found another little gnome guy called Gary. Nearby was another terminal and I chose the smelter this time. Who knows if this was a smart choice. I had a cheeky little snack of some road berries and then before I knew it, it was bedtime again. Another day and it was time for a new landmark, which meant another long journey. En route, I stumbled across a new cap and snap machine, and this time I got the cat charm on the first go. Talk about lucky. I like cats if you hadn't figured that out yet. I came across an abandoned structure which looked like it had been used for mining. This wasn't quite the landmark I was looking for, but I explored it and looted anyways. I was scratching my head about the landmark still, and with only a little bit of energy left in the van, I decided maybe this wasn't a good idea, so I went back to the drawing board on that one. With yesterday's mistakes behind me, I decided to route back to an area where the signal was, hoping I had enough fuel as my wood supplies were running very, very low. And surprise, surprise, it happened. I did run out of charge, but luckily I didn't have too far to go in the forest to get some much needed berries to replenish my stomach and wood for the van. It was also here that I discovered you can feed the rabbits, so they enjoyed the road berries just as much as I did. I stuck all the wood I had collected into the van and patiently waited. I will not be making this mistake again. I finally made it to the radio signal just before nightfall, only to discover I hadn't made any vouchers. Honestly, this was the numptiest day ever. I set the recycler going and hit the sack. Deja vu of attending this tower again, but this time it's in daylight. The options here included an array of flower recipes, and frankly, it would be rude not to. After being scared by running out of fuel, I did a little bit of exploring on foot, where I found a log cabin, but sadly no one was home. There was also a campsite, which unfortunately I couldn't light, and there was also another radio tower, and here I was able to download the vehicle research station. Whilst making my way back to the van as night was soon approaching, I found the punniest gnome yet, and some jam. I hope it doesn't have seeds. As I made my way back to the van, I was also able to put my speedy boots to the test for the first time. Look at me go. Day 11 wasn't too exciting. I spent the day collecting wood and resources. My inventory will thank me for this later. Near the end of the day, I did, however, come across a giant wheat field. I am now regretting not picking up that sickle recipe now. I could have had bread for days. Day 12 was another rainy day, and just beyond the wheat field I came across another building which turned out to be a charging station. This will come in handy so much. I could also just about see a windmill on the horizon, which intrigued me greatly, but there was also a radio tower to my left, so I paused to see if I could get the sickle blueprint. And I was very happy to see that I could. I wasted no time in putting my new sickle to the test, and it worked like a dream. In the crafting mood, I did a little bit of expanding and rearranging my crafting stations. Happy with my progress, I then got back in the driver's seat, only to realize that I couldn't reach the windmill as I needed to upgrade my engine. Time to get to work on crafting some bolts. To cheer myself, I went frolicking through the tulip fields. Day 13 flew by. I processed some metal and made my way across the map to a radio signal where I picked up some more recipes, and then you guessed it, I collected yet more wood. Focusing on trying to get that motor upgrade, I realized the next thing I was going to need is a bolt press. However, I didn't have the recipe, so I decided to reroute back to the beginning where I had missed a radio signal, and thankfully the bolt press was there waiting for me. With the bolts suitably being pressed, I undertook another challenge and repaired the new bridge, and also found myself a new campsite. I finished the night with only a couple more bolts to go. I woke the next morning and there they were. Those shiny bolts were waiting for me. Let the research commence. I had a feeling that this might take some time, but nope, this was actually instant. I then got myself distracted and headed back on myself to reach the signal tower cut off due to a river. There is no swimming here, even though I did try. Whilst on my way, I got another signal alert, and of course I went for the cute hanging decorations. I mean, who could resist these? I found another campsite and reached my intended radio tower to unlock the recipe for a better axe, and it was this point where I realized I had made a huge mistake and upgraded the battery option and not the motor. I am not a mechanic, and nor can I read apparently. To cheer myself up, I collected some berries and got into bed. On to day 16, we're over halfway through, and during my exploring, I had a hard choice. Do I go for a wind farm or a solar farm? In the end, I went for solar. Hopefully we don't get rain for the next 5 days straight. Just beyond the tower, I found a cave with someone's leftover lunch, gross, and then had some rocks to mine. I gathered all the resources I could, and just as night fell, I found my 10th campsite. That's a bit of a milestone. As I was just thinking about getting into bed, a radio signal also triggered. This one was miles away. I won't be rushing to get there. I definitely jinxed it by talking about the rain because you guessed it, the next day was a rainy one. Thankfully, I had enough bolts to unlock the motor upgrade 1. However, I needed more metal to make bolts and craft the upgrade itself. The upgrade couldn't come soon enough because I was ready to get up that hill, and this one really took it out of me. Thankfully, the rain subsided long enough for me to be able to set up another campfire. Then it was time to make the drive to the new signal. But I, being me, got a little bit ahead of myself and tried to take a shortcut. We can add this to the list of mistakes that I have made. This little oopsie didn't set me back too far, and I was on my way again not long after, and this is when I found a radio signal, and here I got myself some brand new chair recipes. As darkness fell, I remembered to set the van on charge and got the bolts ready to go for the upgrade, and it was bedtime. I definitely have jinxed it with the rain, as on day 18 it was another rainy day, but the first order of business and my focus was to get the upgrade all complete. I did a quick inventory and I needed 9 scrap metal for the engine. Luckily, I found some metal nearby and I was able to finally craft the motor engine upgrade 1. Thankfully, I clicked the right button this time. Time to finally make it to that windmill. I went on a long ride through the Tulip Mountains and reached the magnificent windmill. However, the occupants were also at the festival. I'm beginning to question why I'm not there too. As I arrived at the windmill, I decided to explore throughout, and as I finally made it up the tower, I realized that it was in need of some TLC as it was not working. I eventually made it to the top and found the items that were in need of repair. However, I couldn't go any further as it needed 20 scrap metal, which was conveniently located in my van. I sprinted it back to bed as it was getting late and ready to pick up that metal for tomorrow. With the metal in my backpack, it was time to repair the windmill, but I had to get a little bit smart getting my scrap metal to the roof due to the weight of it. AKA, this involved dropping some and then picking it back up again. I thought this saved me doing 2 trips back to the van, thankfully. The windmill was finally back up and running, and I was allowed access into the secret room where I found the final piece to unlock the terminal. This time I got the recipe for a mortar and pestle, which allowed me to grind petals to make paints. I guess we figured out what all of those flowers are for. I enjoyed the super speedy ride back down the mountain through the flowers. That engine upgrade has definitely paid off. And then it was time for a little bit of a night driving to help me explore the map a little bit more. Day 21 was a misty morning, which made a change from all of that rain. That didn't stop me wanting to fully explore this part of the map though, so I could officially tick it off. I made sure to put my upgraded axe to good use, chopping out lots of wood, too much in fact. Those inventory weight gods will get you sooner or later, but I am not a quitter, so I went back to the van one tiny step at a time. The afternoon was also productive. I found a large vehicle elevator in the area I had been before, but of course it wasn't powered on, so here is the next conundrum. The path I tried led me to a gnome called Lindsay and sadly a dead end. As I approached the left side, there was some precious scrap metal and some ore, so I took a moment to gather. However, the night soon drew in and it was time for bed. On to a new day, and I decided to give up on the large vehicle elevator as I couldn't quite figure it out. So I headed back to the main road, and that was not helpful. The mist and the fog here made it quite difficult to see what I was actually driving into, but thankfully it wasn't scary. I did find a blocked tunnel, but without a tier 2 pickaxe, this wasn't happening, so I turned around again. I came across some blue mushrooms. I'm not sure these would be edible, but desperate times call for desperate measures. With my vehicle needing some charge, I decided to put my shoes on and set off on foot. I came across a new radio tower that allowed me to get the recipe for the pickaxe too, and I also found a camp area where I was able to stack my 10th set of rocks. It wasn't long before I stumbled across another radio tower, and this one was a slightly harder decision, but in the end I went for the food processor recipe. I finished the night with a spot of crafting, however I didn't quite have enough food for that processor. I explored the dirt path from the previous day and found another campsite and a bonus cairn to build. I got going with some crafting and I was able to increase the battery capacity on the van. This will make charging a lot easier. I began making my way towards another radio signal, but on the way I encountered some bad weather and my battery depleted pretty quickly. So I took a break near some wood, which was a very welcome opportunity to collect some more. I also remembered to get my food processor crafted, but sadly I'm not yet able to make some jam as the blueberry stocks are pretty low. Then it was bedtime. On to day 24 and I made it to the radio signal, and this time I went for some bed blueprints. Whilst in the area, I decided to finish off unlocking some campfires that I had not been to before. After doing the rounds in the area, I also managed to get 15 campsites total. As night fell, I went ahead and stumbled across a group of road berries, so I filled up my boots so I could make some jam. I spent the next morning going on a bottle cap spending spree, and I got myself some cute recipes. Just beyond the machine, I also noticed lots of wood and some road berries, so again, I decided to stock up. Whilst there, I discovered a beautiful waterfall and also another gnome. With all the road berries, I was finally able to make some jam, which was just as well as I was getting pretty hungry. I then took a new path and found a whole new area with so much silver wood to collect. There was also a bridge to repair which required a whole bunch of planks, so I set them up and headed to bed, ready to repair in the morning. I fixed the bridge and explored the new radio tower and campsite before spying a settlement over the hill. It was a farm. The farm was adorable and it had lots of solar punk details like the balloons and contraptions. My favorite thing was the robot lawnmower. It looked adorable. I explored through the farm thoroughly and there was a terminal within one of the farm buildings. It took me a while going back and forth through all of the different buildings as I really had to keep my eyes peeled. Eventually, I was able to find the required items. I was able to unlock the spinning wheel which was needed for my future crafting. Sadly, I am a little low on fiber though. The next day, I was still on the farm, but there was a side quest to complete. The quest just required 4 scrap metal, which thankfully I had, but now I just have to wait a day and see what happens. I may have also stolen some carrots. I hope a bunny rabbit wasn't living here. I spent the rest of the day figuring out how to power up the lift, but I failed yet again, so I turned the van back around before giving up when it got really dark. On day 28, I had a realization that I had got this far into the game when I realized I could have been harvesting fiber from these bushes all along. So I decided to collect up as much fiber as I could. Top tip, you can also use this to charge your vehicle. I eventually made it to the radio signal station by nightfall. As we are soon approaching the end of the 30-day challenge, I thought it was time to do some decorating, so I did make some serious expansions, and now that I have a good stockpile of wood, I don't feel so guilty about doing lots of decorating. With the decorating done, it was time to do some more exploring, and I found another whole new area to explore. As we hit nighttime, there was also a new campsite waiting for me. So we're on to our final day now, and you guessed it, of course it's raining. I decided to do a little bit more of exploring on the map. It does look like we have pretty much seen everywhere, however there's still quite a few things unfound that I would like to do to fully complete the game. With my exploration done, I decided to spend a little bit more time decorating my camper van and just organising things a bit more to test out the decorating that little bit further, and it was pretty smooth, I have to say. There is a grid, but it isn't too restrictive, and it's nice to be able to organise things smoothly and rotate them. I also finally, on day 30, planted my crops. Do not ask me why I didn't do this sooner. I would not have just been on a diet of road berries if I had, but there you go. It's really easy to do, and hopefully I'll be able to get some food later on. Overall, I have really enjoyed the slow-paced exploring that this game brings. It's been nice to make little discoveries here and there, and I cannot wait to see what comes later in the game once I've found everything and made all the upgrades. Don't forget, Outbound launches on May 11th on PC and Xbox, and May 14th for the Switch 1 and 2, and also the PlayStation. It is also launching with 10% off for a limited time. Don't forget to check out the link in the description if you want to learn more. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.